Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carly Fiorina, American Conservative Union Board Member.
So many people out running around, handicapped before they hit the ground.
Thank you so much. Boy, what a fantastic day we've had today. Fantastic, right? We had a surprise visit from the next President of the United States and his family. We've had absolutely wonderful panels talking about how we need to stand up for our principles and reach out to others. And let's face it, we've also had a lot of fun, making fun of the Democrat spin today, the morning after. So I have to just start with my favorite one. My favorite one was Al Gore this morning saying that he thought that altitude was President Obama's problem. I mean, it is high here in Denver. To which I would just say, no, Al, I don't think it was the altitude. I think maybe it was President Obama's attitude. But I have to say, I spent 6.5 hours doing debate coverage for CNN last night, where many undecideds go. And my favorite moment of the evening last night actually was watching David Axelrod. Because David Axelrod actually said after the debate, and I quote, well, let's not get too caught up in the theatrics of the moment. This is the man who is king of theatrics of the moment. I mean, the Greek columns, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, like all of you, I have lived the American dream. I began my business career as a secretary. And eventually, I became the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world, Hewlett-Packard, the first woman to do so. I have traveled all over the world, and I know with certainty that my story is only possible in the United States of America. Like so many stories, and it is only possible in this country because this country was founded on a truly radical idea. That radical idea is that everyone has potential, born and unborn. That everyone has the right to fulfill their potential, and that it really doesn't matter who you are or where you come from or what you look like or what your last name is. All that matters is where you want to go. That radical idea is radical to this day, and it is why we all fight so hard for conservative principles, and it is why ultimately I believe Mitt Romney will be the next president of the United States. I wasn't always politically active. I'm very honored to serve now as a board member of the American Conservative Union. I wasn't always an active conservative, although I was always a registered Republican. I became an active conservative when I realized that actually, philosophy aside, only conservative principles work. And one of the things that our panels talk to us today about is how do we talk to people who may not think they agree with our principles or our philosophies? What's the brand problem that conservatives have? We know sometimes I think our brand problem may be as basic as the definition of conservative that people read in the dictionary. You know what it says when you read conservative in the dictionary? It says avoiding change, looking backward. You know what it says when you open the dictionary and read progressive, looking forward? Okay? So people hear those words and they think, oh, conservatives must believe in going backwards. No, conservatives believe in things that work. So let me talk to you not about political philosophy, but practicality for a moment. In business, I learned that the best decisions were made by people closest to the customer because they knew the most about it. The most ineffective decision-making possible comes from big, bloated, centralized bureaucracies. If you think about what's going on in technology today, think about what technology does. Our iPhones, all of the devices we carry around, what does that give us the power to do? It gives us the power to find any piece of information we want anytime, anywhere. In other words, an individual has power. And those vast, bloated bureaucracies, whether they're in a corporation or they're in Washington, D.C., they find it harder and harder and harder to keep up. Vast, unaccountable bureaucracies simply don't work. And in the 21st century, with technology barreling along, they work even less well. And ladies and gentlemen, we will win the argument for life as we point to science and technology. So what do conservatives believe? What are our principles? Well, our principles are things that work and things that are aligned with the technological realities of the 21st century. We believe in decentralizing power. We trust individuals to make better choices about how to spend their money, about how to grow their business, about how to care for their family than we expect a big bureaucracy to make. And when push comes to shove, we are going to trust a job creator, an innovator, an entrepreneur more than we trust a regulator or a bureaucrat. Set philosophy aside, that's just practicality. It works better. Let's take health care. Do we truly believe, as Mitt Romney questioned President Obama last night, do we truly believe that 15 people are so wise that they can sit in Washington, D.C. and figure out what the right protocols are for all of us? I must tell you, I am a cancer survivor. In fact, many people don't recognize me with long hair, but I'm a cancer survivor, and it terrifies me that 15 people are in charge of determining what the protocol should be for breast cancer. Do we really believe that Ben Bernanke and a dozen colleagues are smart enough to figure out what to do to ensure full employment? Let's get rid of the Federal Reserve's mandate for full employment once and for all. But it doesn't matter how smart they are. 12 people aren't smart enough to figure that out. In education, you know, when Obama says he wants to invest in education, if you look at his budgets, the few that he's submitted, do you know what he's really talking about? He's really talking about increasing the budget of the Department of Education. And if you look at the budget of the Department of Education, it has increased over decades. And guess what's happened at the very same time? The quality of our education has deteriorated. In other words, the size of the Department of Education has nothing to do with the quality of education. Remember during the Chicago teachers' strike? I don't know how many of you were struck by this as I was, but there we had pictures of picketing teachers. And the teachers said that they did not want to be held accountable for performance in the classroom because their students came from broken homes and impoverished situations. That was shocking to me. We know that every child can learn, that every child wants to learn and deserves a chance to learn. And we know as well that every parent deserves a real choice about where to send their child to school, to a working school. And we know that if a child is to learn, that a good teacher makes all the difference in the world. Not another $1 billion to the Department of Education or another few dozen bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. A good teacher in front of a child who believes that that child, no matter how difficult their circumstances, that child can learn and deserves an opportunity to learn. One of my favorite moments in the whole debate last night was when Romney said, well, yes, President Obama, you're right about the Department of Education and training and those 47 different training programs in 8 agencies. It was like, yes, fact and data. And Obama, as I said to one of my liberal friends last night on television who said, well, you know, the fact checkers are going to be out against Mitt Romney today. I said, well, it's an easy job with Obama because he has no facts. And finally, we know this. We know that the vast majority of Americans get their start the same way I did. I started out in a little business, a 9-person company. That's how I first went to work. In fact, it is how wave after wave of immigrant has gotten their start in this country. It is how minorities first grasp the rung on the ladder of the American dream. Women own small businesses, African American own small businesses, Asian American own small businesses, Hispanic own small businesses. This is where the American dream starts. Small businesses innovate at a rate 11 times the rate of big companies. When I left Hewlett-Packard, we were generating 11 patents a day. That's a lot. But imagine that small businesses are generating at 11 times the rate of big companies. Let's face it, Washington, D.C. has been set up by big government for big unions and big business. That's what all this regulation and taxation is about. And if you're a company the size of Hewlett-Packard, you can afford accountants and lawyers to dig through all that regulation and to figure out those 27,000 pages of the tax code. The reason tax reform, tax simplification is so critically important is not just to lower the rates, it's to simplify it. Small business creation is at its lowest point in the last 40 years. That is one of the structural problems we now have in our economy and one of the reasons we're only growing at 1.5%. There aren't enough small businesses who are making it, and there aren't enough new businesses that are forming. They can't get through the thicket of regulation, and they can't understand the 27,000-page tax code. So whether it's the economy or education or health care or the debt and the deficit, the truth is our ideas work better. Our ideas are in tune with the realities of the 21st century. And if you go back to those dictionary definitions I told you, the 21st century turns those on their heads. It is progressives who are standing and defending an anachronistic status quo of big, bloated bureaucracies and special interests. And it isn't working anymore. We will get this country back to work. We will make it true that the 21st century is also America's century. Because if you believe in the American dream, and let's face it, everyone in America believes in the American dream. Everyone wants a better life for their children. Everyone wants a chance to fulfill their potential. And yes, everyone has potential. And so if you believe in the American dream, as I know you do, if you believe in that radical idea that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what your last name is, none of that matters. All that matters is where you want to go. And the only way to make the American dream come alive for as many people as possible is to do what works. And what works is what we believe in. Decentralize power out of Washington, D.C. Trust individuals to make choices for themselves and their families and their businesses. Trust an entrepreneur and a job creator, not a regulator and a bureaucrat. I believe this will be the greatest century in American history. I truly believe that, because this is an age when more things are more possible for more people than at any time in human history. And I believe the American dream will be made possible for a whole new generation, because our ideas, our ideals, our principles, they are what works. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for what you do. Thank you.